Good afternoon, this is Metropol News at 1. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi. Now, Kenyans can breathe a sigh of relief after members of parliament thwarted a plan by the National Treasury to tax the country's staple food, ugali. Now, on Tuesday, the National Assembly's Finance Committee proposed to zero rates value-added tax on maize and wheat flour, meaning the price of chapati and ugali is likely to go down after the National Assembly's Finance Committee proposed to zero rates of value-added tax on maize and wheat flour. Now, the reasoning behind this is to help flour millers claim VAT they paid on inputs such as electricity rather than passing it on to Kenyans who are already the economic heat of the pandemic. Now, importers of motorbikes and parents who will buy infant foods are also among other big winners in the latest changes by lawmakers. Sugarcane farmers and exporters will also benefit from reduced taxes after MPs removed VAT on transport services. This means that farmers will not pay VAT for the delivery of their cane to milling factories. However, the cost of making calls and browsing is likely to sharply rise after the Finance Committee proposed to increase excise duty on telephone and internet services. Also hit hard are the gamblers after the legislators proposed to increase excise duty to 30% from 20%, which the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani had proposed on the amount wagered.
Members have spoken strongly, specifically about bread, about, flour, about, the things that really, the motorcycles. And I just wanted to clarify that the motorcycle Treasury was trying to move from charging in actual figures, because there's an actual figure of 11,000. So right now, even if you buy a motorcycle for 70,000, you still pay 11,000. Even if you buy a motorcycle for it, you still pay that standard amount. So Treasury was trying to move to a percentage so that it depends on the value of the motorcycle that you buy. We might want to zero rate everything, but as I was beginning to move, I said that we are in difficult times. We must strike a balance between raising revenue and cushioning Kenyans. So I want to just urge members that even as we go to the committee stage, that we agree to, make compromises so that where we can, we carry, but where we cannot, we also leave to fight another day.
Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has ruled out creation of new constituencies before elections next year. IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati says the earliest the 70 proposed new constituencies will come to fruition is in 2024. Meanwhile, Chebukati says the boundary delimitation will be complete by March next year.
In your reflections to the speakers, I'm just wondering, Mr. Chebukati, how can you have reflections to the Speaker of the Senate and National Assembly if you have not done the audit of the electronic management system, which was in fact the cause of the repeat of the presidential election? If you have not done an audit of the register, how fast can you do these things? We are concerned as members of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee about preparations for elections. It's important. There must be a timeline. You had 1 year.
How much was requested for? I think the management team should give the figures.
Chairman has just referred the question to you.
And I still want to refer to his answer because he's basing it on timelines that we are given in our elections operations plan and our strategic plan, that by May, the audit of the register will have been done. By May next year.
So the period you are giving us is May 2022.
Yes.
But I'm not sure whether CEO Marjan is aware of the law we put in place in terms of inspection of the register, in terms of making it public. Because when you say May 2022, is easily the time when your register should be ready for inspection. So what if you conduct an audit of your register and you find that it has 1 million voters who are not supposed to be there? What are you supposed to do when members of the public are supposed to, in fact, at that time, start inspecting your register? If your timelines read May 2022, which is 4 months to the elections, what are you supposed to do if you discover the technology that we were given by Safran Morpho is not competent for purposes of the general elections coming in 3 months? What are you supposed to do? You know, these questions we are asking, Mr. Marjan, may appear very academic, but it is pointing out to whether or not you are going to use this same technology for purposes of the general election.
The issue of technology, I think we talked about it. We said the reason why we have not been doing it, and I wish we were able to do it, was because of lack of budgetary. We have budgetary constraints. And we've indicated that in first, if you don't have budget, there is no way you are going to do an audit.
Now, Safaricom is targeting the over 1 million tourists that visit Kenya annually through the newly launched M-Pesa app. According to Safaricom Chief Financial Officer and M-Pesa Africa Managing Director Sitoyo Lopokoyot, the digitization of M-Pesa function into an app will allow foreigners pair their credit cards such as Visa and MasterCards to M-Pesa and be able to transact while in the country. Sitoyo, who was speaking during the official launch of the app on Wednesday, added that the company spends in the upwards of 4 billion shillings in the maintenance of M-Pesa annually. The new app will allow customers the function to send money to more than one recipient at a go and can be used while on offline mode.
Within the M-Pesa business app, businesses will have apps where they can renew licenses, manage and pay their bills, manage and interact with suppliers, and much more. The mini apps will be developed in close partnerships with hundreds of organizations who have already interacted with our business as customers, from government agencies to utility firms to suppliers and others.
Today we have over 100, out of the 300,000, 100,000 businesses that are using the app, which is a phenomenal achievement. And then out of that, over 45% of our transactions on Lipa na M-Pesa are actually happening on that app channel. In Kenya, there are around 2 million sort of registered businesses, so you can see there's a gap to where we have to go. There's a big opportunity to help and empower businesses in Kenya. We want one app across all our M-Pesa footprints. If you go to the App Store, you'll soon see M-Pesa, and then you download it, let us say, select your country, Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, DRC, or whatever, and then then it automatically customizes it to that. The other bit is, so Kenya receives between, let's say, 1 or 2 million tourists a year. When you come, when a tourist arrives, then they will say you're roaming with Safaricom. The next message they will get is download the M-Pesa app, and once we get all approval, you could potentially say, pair your Visa or MasterCard to the M-Pesa app and use it within the, just like a normal Kenyan. So the reason for that is one is M-Pesa is now growing beyond our borders. We're already in 7 countries and looking at expanding through the M-Pesa Africa. So that's the main reason why you're seeing the separation. Globally, when you're looking at M-Pesa, we're looking at it from a view of being an over-the-top player, similar like how Uber is. So it's more like Uberizing M-Pesa. So the app can be network agnostic.
Now, the number of patients fighting their lives in the intensive care units has more than doubled, according to the Ministry of Health. Now, in the latest figures, 273 patients are in the ICU, up from 103 patients reported on Monday. An additional 1,098 patients are also currently admitted in various health facilities, while 5,669 patients are under home-based isolation and care program. The Ministry of Health has also confirmed 23 more COVID-related deaths, pushing cumulative fatalities to 3,484. This comes as 583 more people tested positive for the coronavirus, with a positivity rate of 8.7%. In terms of distribution, Nairobi County leads with 111 new cases, Siaya with 57, Kisumu 51, Kericho with 46, Mombasa 43, Busia 39, Nakuru 25, Nyamira 24, Kakamega 21, and with Homa Bay 20. Uganda's parliament has been closed for 14 days amid rising cases of COVID-19 and deaths. The closure will allow the disinfection of the parliamentary buildings in the capital, Kampala. The closure comes after the Parliamentary Commission last week announced that over 100 lawmakers and members of staff had tested positive for the novel coronavirus. Uganda has registered 73,401 cases and 714 deaths, according to official figures. Data from Uganda's Ministry of Health further shows that the country's test positivity rate stands at 17.4%. Now on Sunday, President Yoweri Museveni announced a lockdown in a bid to arrest the situation. Museveni suspended non-essential travel between districts and ordered closure of schools for 6 weeks. You have 7 days to file your annual tax returns. But even as the June 30th deadline looms, the Kenya Revenue Authority has enhanced the iTax system in readiness for the high traffic. KRA is promoting the use of digital channels, including the KRA M-Service app, in light of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the authority has also put in place the necessary measures to support taxpayers who may need assistance during the filing season virtually. Over 3.8 million Kenyans had filed their returns successfully as of 20th June 2021, translating to over 20% growth compared to the 3.1 million who had filed their returns by the same period last year. Marketing and Communication Deputy Commissioner Grace Wandera attributes the increase in the number of returns filed to the current stability of the iTax system, adding that more taxpayers are expected to file their returns before 30th of June. Now, the Kenya banking industry will be promoting the Credit Guarantee Scheme and Movable Assets Registry as a means of accessing finance to its customers through this year's Inua Biashara Summit. The summit for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises kicked off yesterday, and it will pave way for a 3-day virtual trade show that will enable banks to showcase their products and services to customers virtually. According to the Kenya Bankers Association CEO Dr. Habil Olaka, banks are working closely with the National Treasury and the Central Bank of Kenya through the National Credit Guarantee Scheme to accelerate MSME access to credit during this disruptive pandemic period.
Accelerating our efforts on climate mitigation and adaptation, as well as embracing projects on the green economy, such as the blended finance project that you are championing, remains a crucial pillar to tackling the climate change crisis. KBA, together with our partners, have initiated the Blended Finance Project, taking into account that it's one of the best ways to help bridge the estimated $2.5 trillion annual investment gap for delivering the SDGs by the United Nations in developing countries like Kenya. Blended finance is an approach that uses different forms of capital in support of sustainable development. Across the world in the recent past, this form of funding is helping tens of thousands of businesses to meet their development agenda. KBA, Kenya Climate Innovation Center, and the financial sector deepening Kenya have collaborated to support entrepreneurs to access capital needed to scale up their businesses that are operating within the green economy. Blended finance offers us vast opportunities, not only as businesses, but as a nation. With key indicators showing that most finance mobilized is going towards climate change mitigation, there is a need to scale up support for adaptation for projects that focus on disaster management and business continuity, infrastructure development, and flood protection.
Now, the Kenya Revenue Authority is auctioning 314 vehicles and 223 containers that are being held at the port of Mombasa. The vehicles are being held at various container freight stations, and the containers, which have assorted household items such as clothes and shoes, are being held at the custom warehouse within the port of Mombasa. Now, the clearing will be majorly for containers that have overstayed at the port to ease congestion and encourage efficiency and facilitate trade. KRA expects to raise nearly 200 million shillings from the auction that runs today and tomorrow.
motor vehicles. As you can see, these numbers are a bit high. We cannot also be able to run it in a day, bearing in mind that we need to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. Even as we undertake the auction, we want to assure Kenyans that we need to comply. We will comply with the COVID-19 protocols so that you are safe. You will not be able to contract corona. The process will be very accountable. Every Kenyans will get the chance to take part, and there is equal chance for everybody to bid in the auction and to win. There will be some conditions to be met. There will be some procedure. For those of you who have attended the auction, you know that. And as a media fraternity, I will also invite you to attend the proceedings of the auction on 23rd and 24th. The objectives of our auction basically is to protect revenue. It's a source of our revenue. The goods which we send them for auction are the ones which have not been cleared within the statutory time limit.
Let's now look at how the forex market is performing at this hour. Now, oil prices declined on Tuesday, giving up some of the gains they had scored in the prior session. Now, the West Texas Intermediate for July delivery lost 60 cents to settle at $73.06 a barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange. Brent crude for August delivery decreased 9 cents to close at $74.81 a barrel on the London ICE Futures Exchange. Experts say the positive investor sentiment and the good physical demand as transport activity recovers around the world have supported the oil rally recently. Egyptian classic car owners gathered at the Egypt Motor Expo to showcase their collection of vintage vehicles and boost awareness of the unique car market. Egypt has one of the biggest collections of mechanically sound classic cars in the world. From the 1950s to the early 90s, a wide range of classic cars inspired the Egyptian capital owners to about 65 classic Mercedes vehicles excitedly joined the event to showcase how well they preserved or restored their cars. Now, the expo is a unique gathering where classic cars enthusiasts can share knowledge and learn from each other's experience. It is also an opportunity for them to discuss how they will face government environmental laws that could stop the licensing of their vehicles. Egyptian law doesn't recognize the use of classic vehicles. Now, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development says that foreign direct investment flows plunged globally by 35% in 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic, but are expected to bounce back in 2021 mainly thanks to the recovery in Asia. In its World Investment Report of 2021, the Geneva-based UN Trade and Development Body said FDI flows fell to $1 trillion in 2020 from $1.5 trillion in the previous year. Now, the report said lockdowns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic around the world slowed down existing investment projects and the prospects of a recession led multinational enterprises to reassess new projects. According to the survey, despite the pandemic, FDI to and from Asia remained resilient in 2020, making it the only region that recorded FDI growth and accounting for more than half of global inward and outward FDI flows.
For 2021, there will be a kind of bottom out with modest regain of the lost ground of 2020. We expect a kind of 10 to 15% of increase this year, but it's still well below the level of 2019. Therefore, we've seen that global FDI flows will gain momentum of growth in 2022 and approaching a full recovery by then, and from onwards there could be a momentum of further growth. This is not surprising, and normally the FDI cycle is lagging the general business cycle or economic growth cycle. So we have seen that the world economy and world trade are now recovering, and it'll be kind of a V-shaped recovering. But for global FDI, it could be kind of a U-shaped recovery, and that recovery is kind of gradual, as I said, over 2 years. We saw that last year China did very well, and it was one of the very few countries that FDI increased. And for China, it rose by 6%. That's quite impressive during this pandemic. And that's because of the resilience of the economic growth and supported by investment facilitation efforts and a continued investment liberalization. So this, we see it will continue, that the country is still attracting a large amount of investment. So for this year, next year, I would say it'll be kind of a steady, modest increase. So FDI will remain at a high level.
Well, that's it for Metropol News at 1. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi, and from the rest of the team here at Metropol TV, have a great afternoon.
Laikipia County, with vast plains and robust people, has a secret.
Interesting.